Welcome to Dave Talks Ball on this November 18th, 2024 episode, folks. Is it just me? I was sitting here when I was getting my notes ready for this. Is it just me, or is it wild that it is already November 18th, 2024? That is just wild to me. Just absolutely wild across the board. Maybe it's because it's my firstborn's birthday this week on Thursday. That could be it. Or it's just amazingly how fast college football season just goes every year. It feels like August, fall camp creeps by, July creeps by. And before we know it, it's Labor Day weekend, then we blink and it's Thanksgiving. We have a few games left. Thankfully for the 12-team playoff, we have more games. We blink and it's gone, folks. But again, I'm your host, Dave Shoemate, coming at you here from Dave Talks Ball every Monday and Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Coming at you live, folks. But what did you think of Week 12? I mean, don't doubt the dogs. Don't doubt the dogs when they're backed into a corner in their own backyard, which is Sanford Stadium. Shane Beamer is the Eli Drinkwitz monkey off his back. Barely. Florida and DJ Lagway make Scott Strickland look like a really smart guy after announcing Billy Napier's return to Gainesville in 2025. We'll see how that goes. Just for now, he looks smart. Texas holds on in Fayetteville. Wasn't pretty, but he holds on. College basketball well underway. We had phenomenal matchups Friday through Sunday. I will go over them. Right now we have Auburn, North Alabama, I think starting in about an hour in the Neville Arena. And then we currently have Arkansas Pacific going right now. Let me actually check that score for you right now. I was watching this like a 10-point lead. 44-37 start of the second half right now. Again, Arkansas has overall it's kind of left something to be desired at times this year on the hardwood. It's early though. It's early. We got to get out of our college football goggles at times, even myself at times, and not overreact to one game. I think we all do it. All us big college football, college basketball fans. It's a weird transition. Like I say, you always judge college basketball by a regular season and then a tournament grade. You got to give two separate grades. You can't just do one big grade for a whole season because it's so long. And when you get in the NCAA tournament, 68-team tournament, single elimination, you have one bad shooting night, you can lose. But we'll talk about college basketball Friday through Sunday's action. What does the road to Atlanta look like right now? It actually looks pretty clear skies with no rain, honestly. As long as there isn't some random pop-up storm, we don't have some cold front coming through. I know I'm throwing a bunch of weather analogies, but it's pretty clear, and we'll discuss it. Then what are the ceilings and floors for all six playoff teams? I'm going to rank 1 through 6, the ceilings of the 6 teams that are in playoff contention, and then I'm going to rank the floors 1 through 6. And they're going to be a little different. So when I'm saying 6, I'm talking about Texas, Georgia, Ole Miss, Alabama, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. I'm sorry, South Carolina fans. I'm not putting you in this. Just I don't think you're going to make the playoffs. That doesn't mean I wouldn't rank you in the top 6 right now in the SEC. So don't get up in arms about that. We're just talking about the true playoff contenders. So I'm going to rank the ceilings and floors of those teams. Then we're going to do, as we always do, a little Week 13 look ahead. But first, what did we think? Let's move to it. What do we think of the LSU uniforms that dropped this evening? Just 5 o'clock, randomly just dropping it out here. See if you guys can see that. This is from LSU's football account. It says, got some new golds for this Saturday night in Death Valley. Huh. What do we think? I think it all depends what the top and pants looks like. If it's gold, and gold, it's going to look like a mustard bottle, folks. I'm just telling you, it's going to look like a total mustard bottle if it is gold tops, gold uniforms, and gold pants. It's just going to be, let's call it spade a spade. I think we're talking in our SEC Unfiltered group. I think they go white. We all kind of agreed on that. White tops, maybe white pants. That would actually look decent. So I saw some people wanting the purple pants. Be a lot. I saw somebody posted a picture, though, back from the Jared Gennardo days in the comments from, I think, the Independence Bowl. Here we go. Here's what the yellow on yellow would look like with the white pants. Boom. I think it's from a Jerry DiNardo Independence Bowl. I can't tell you who the opponent was. It's probably the mid to late 90s. But that's what it would look like right there. That looks like a half of a Heinz mustard bottle to me right there. I think you got to go white. You got to go white hat, right? You got to go the white top. Right? You got to go the white top, gold top, white pants. Now, again, people are going to give them hell. Is this what Brian Kelly's trying to do to distract from what's going on? No. Alternate jerseys are planned way in advance by the equipment staff, the administration within these college athletics departments. So this isn't Brian Kelly's thing. I'm sure he approved it or gave the nod probably over a year ago, probably in the summer, maybe in the spring when they were trying to figure out. Usually these teams don't do alternate uniforms in these massive games. And to be fair, Vanderbilt's a lot better than everybody thought. But when they were looking at the schedule going in, they probably had them like everybody else. 0-8, 1-7 heading the league. So this isn't a Brian Kelly distraction thing, folks. This is planned way in advance. But I'm genuinely curious in the comments tonight, folks. Tell me what you think about this jersey. Tell me what you think about this jersey design right now. Yay, nay. Let's rank it 1 through 5, guys. 1 being the most hideous thing you've ever seen. 5 being, hey, they need to change that uniform full time. What are we giving that? We do count halves. We'll be 3.5. Y'all just give me what you think on that. But let's get right to it. We're going to hop right into the week 12 that was. Georgia controls second half against the Tennessee Volunteers. What do we think, folks? Georgia get the 31-17 win. Look, I said anything I believed in college football going into last week. If there was one game all season I was going to bet that I was really confident on, it was Georgia's season on the line, backs against the wall, in their own house against an offense and Josh Heupel, the Josh Heupel offense. That Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann just know how to tame. It is. And I saw Joe Clapp mention this, and I just want to say this because I'm going to put it in the chat. Let me try to find it. I just think at times, I want to find this. I want to find this of me talking about this, dude. Let me see. I'm gonna send it to myself. I want to post it in the group. I'm gonna post it in the comments here. Myself and Graham Coffee, for all the people wondering out there who that is. He has a Georgia podcast that he follows. Me and him talked about like 2 summers ago. There is a ceiling on this Tennessee offense. Now, I'm wanting to pull it up in here, pulling it right now. I'll put it in the SEC crew. Here we go. I will DM this to myself and bring it up. Let's see. There we go. Let me pull it up. Just DM'd it to myself. I'll pull it up for you right here. And this is kind of what I said last time. Let me share it. Copy link. Here we go. Putting it right here in the comments. This is from summer 2023. This was even before last year. Sorry, my own Twitter account is linked to this, so you're going to see it in here. If you click that, that's me and Graham Coffee talking about Tennessee kind of having a ceiling on its team with Josh Heupel because Joel Clapp brought it up today. Joel Clapp brought it up on the next round. That offense, when playing similar athletes, can get figured out. Again, y'all know what it is. They play sideline to sideline, hash mark to hash mark. It's a numbers game in the box. It's not really – that's why an offensive – they don't need phenomenal offensive linemen there. It's a numbers game. If there's 6, 7 in the box, they're throwing. If there's 5 in the box, they got a hat for a hat. That's what it is. When you have corners, you have secondary players that can go man their wide receivers, it doesn't matter. When you have the same similar of athletes, the same similar personnel, or better that Georgia has, it's tough to do a whole lot. People go, what about 2022 Alabama versus Tennessee? There's an exception to every rule. And let's be honest, Jalen Hyatt was a freak from a total speed standpoint. I mean, what he ran, a 4.3 something at the combine before he got drafted by the Giants. And they kept getting Alabama kept getting DeMarco Helms, or I should say Josh Heupel and Alex Golish kept getting that matchup of a safety against him. And dude, that's game over there, man. That's game over. A safety against Jalen Hyatt in the slot. Go rewatch that 2022 Tennessee-Alabama game when they put 50 points on them. That's what happened. But just think about them recently against similar teams and talent. Georgia this past week didn't score in the second half. Last year against Georgia didn't put up a lot of points outside the first opening run. Against Alabama in the second half last year against a Kevin Steele and Nick Saban-led defense. 0 points in the second half when they had a 13-point lead. Struggled on the road at Florida last year. Granted, Cooper Mays was out, but still. This year against Alabama, you don't score in the second quarter. In the first half. You're down 7-0. You don't score at halftime in the first half. This team can go cold at times, and Georgia has their number. Georgia has them figured out. Often, it is what it is at this point. It's not a theory. They have them figured out. Glenn Schumann and Kirby Smart have Josh Heupel figured out offensively. Like I mentioned, Josh Heupel in road games, South Carolina 2022, Florida 2023, Alabama 2023, Missouri 2023, Arkansas this year, Georgia this year. Josh Heupel in that offense, when they go into hostile environments against other pretty good teams that are on similar talent playing levels or playing fields, he struggles. And it's not a shot to Josh Heupel. I think the floor for Josh Heupel is 8 at Tennessee, and I think the ceiling's 11 every year. I just don't know if his style of play is fit to go win a championship. I think he struggles to decide what he wants to do offensively when he has a really good defense. He's not used to that. When they were at UCF with Dylan Gabriel and all them and Mackenzie Milton, they had better talent than everybody in that league outside of Cincinnati. It was what it was. I'm not going on some rant against Tennessee. That's just why I was so confident Georgia would win this game. Give Georgia's offensive line, after giving up multiple sacks, tackles for loss the week before against Ole Miss, didn't even give up a single sack against Tennessee. The big donut, the big goose egg, folks. Carson Beck played really well. I mean, now a lot of that had to do because he had time, and as we know, Carson Beck's got really twitchy feet. He can move it in the pocket if he doesn't just get a lot of interior pressure. He's got the quickest release in college football right now. I'm not really overly sold on Carson Beck as an NFL prospect. I don't think if I was a GM, I would waste a pick on him. It's not a shot towards him. I wouldn't, but on Saturday night, he looked comfortable because he had time. It just is what it is. Georgia limited offensively, have some injuries on the offensive line, losing receivers pretty regularly. Running backs are down outside of Nate Frazier. I'm hearing Roderick Robinson will be back, though, at some point. But overall, I mean, the tight ends, everybody, we were so used to seeing Brock Bowers for years. Oscar Delp had 4 receptions for 56 yards. Ben Yursak, 5 receptions for 51 yards. People don't know him. He's the Stanford transfer. It was a pretty good day for the tight ends for Georgia. I mean, like I said, Carson Beck, 25 for 40, 347, 2 touchdowns. And the beautiful stat you always love to see if you're a coach, I said it earlier, the big goose egg, the big donut in the interception category, folks. Georgia gets it done. Not shocked. I think it's just a tough spot for Tennessee. They were getting Georgia. They would rather have Georgia beaten Ole Miss rolling into this if you really asked them. That's something a lot of people I don't think would have won the other night in Athens. So not a penalty to Tennessee. But where does Georgia go from here? Georgia's done with conference play, folks. They get UMass at home. UMass just fired Don Brown today. So they'll be rolling into Athens with an interim coach. And then Georgia Tech in Georgia play on Friday. And Georgia, I think, should finish 10-2. And I think they're going to be in the college football playoffs. We'll talk about the road to Atlanta here in just a minute. They're going to need somebody to slip up. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But that's for Tennessee. For Georgia. For Tennessee, they get UTEP at home this week and then finish at Vanderbilt. Can they go 10-2? I do think they're going to need some help, but 10-2, another phenomenal. Even if Tennessee misses the playoffs, another great year for Tennessee. Josh Heupel has them going in the right spot, guys. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think he's ever going to win a championship there. But again, at the end of the year, guys, only one team can win an SEC championship every year. Only one team can win a national championship. Not everyone can win. And I feel like sometimes as fans, and we're all fans, myself included, even though I worked in college football for 9 to 10 years, I've kind of lost that fanhood a little bit just because I saw how the sausage was made internally in these buildings and these SEC football departments or football programs. But I think sometimes we forget that it's hard to win, guys. It's hard to win just because you went 10-2 and there's a team that can figure your offense out like it's their job, which it is. It doesn't mean you're a bad staff, guys. I mean, look at Tennessee from after they fired Philip Fulmer on. Derek Dooley didn't get it done. Jerry Pruitt didn't get it done. Butch Jones didn't get it done. It's all right. It's all right, folks. It is all right, Tennessee fans. Joe K, welcome in, brother. Georgia punched a ticket to the CFP. Alabama has to lose to Oklahoma or Auburn for Georgia to play in the SEC championship. Do Georgia and Ole Miss benefit by not being in the ship? Well, I'm going to circle you back here, Joe, when we get back to talking about it. But I think you do bring up a fair point. Do they? I mean, I don't know. If you win the SEC, you get a bye and you get the top 4 seed. I will say, though, the best seed's going to be, like we've said all year, is going to be 5. Because you're probably going to get the G5 team if they're not ranked ahead of the Big 12 team. And then think about it. You get a shot with you're rolling in to play the 4 seed, which will probably be the Big 12 champ. The 5 spot's the spot to have, folks. I don't even know if it's the 2 spot if you win the SEC. I just think the SEC's in a tough spot because I don't think they're going to get the 5 spot because there's going to be a 2-loss team in the SEC championship. I think if Ohio State wins this week, Oregon, Ohio State are locked in to the 1 and 5 spots. They are. They're locked into it. If Ohio State beats Indiana this week, the winner of the Big Ten will be the number 1 seed. The loser will just go to the 5 seed. I think it's pretty locked in if Ohio State gets the job done this week against Indiana. Moving on, next game, Texas pulls away from Hogs in the second half. I mean, they get the 20-10 win. What do we think about this? I mean, the Texas defense is legit, guys. I mean, it's Jahdae Barron has been fun to watch. You go back and watch games on Sunday. He is someone that's caught my eye. Obviously, the interior of the defensive line, not Byron Sweat or Tavondre Sweat, not Byron Murphy, but Vernon Broughton and Alfred Collins have held their own as well. But it just feels like the offense can't put back-to-back performances together. And I thought this was going to be a day against that Arkansas secondary who was not very good. Remember, Ole Miss almost put up 600 yards against this group 2 weeks before. Arkansas was coming off a bye week. And from talking to people in the Arkansas football building, they thought potentially the same thing. They were really worried. They're like, we may get blown out, dude. Texas is going to take advantage of it. I mean, that was the feel inside in Fayetteville this past week. But Texas couldn't get anything from an offensive explosive play going. Kept trying to establish the run with Trey Weiser. And I get it. But there were plays to be had against this secondary. And I don't think they took advantage of it. Arkansas, actually, I thought played pretty well. Couldn't get the run game going. Jaquindon Jackson hadn't looked healthy in weeks. 34 carries for an average of 2.4 yards per carry overall for Arkansas. Couldn't get the run game going at all. Just for Texas, I just don't know. It's a road win in the SEC. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, we've seen all kind of performances in Fayetteville this year. Ole Miss went and hammered them. LSU controlled that whole game. They beat Tennessee. So, I mean, there's tons of sample data on what's to be expected in Fayetteville this year. I think you just take it for what it is. It's 1 week. I mean, I was on a show today and someone's like, well, I mean, you got to be feeling good about Georgia winning the national championship, right? I mean, no. No, I don't. I mean, I felt really good about them beating Tennessee, but we got to remember that performance in Oxford, whether it was the weather, whether it was just a road environment, that was just a week ago, guys. That was about 9-10 days ago. It wasn't that long ago. It's week to week now, guys. It can't just be like, sometimes we're all day traders in college football where we just remember that week, and I get it. We're prisoners of the moment. But this is the 1 year I can remember that it's just like, man, they look pretty good this week. Again, I don't think Georgia's going to look bad against UMass, but it wouldn't shock me if the Georgia Tech game's closer than what people think. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, what's Texas going to look like? It wouldn't shock me if Texas came out and had their best offensive performance of the year against Kentucky this week after not doing much against a very vulnerable Arkansas secondary. It's week to week, man. It's game plan to game plan. It's matchups. Is what it is. What's next for Texas? They get Kentucky at home this week. That's where our SEC Unfiltered tour will be with Chris Phillips. He will be in Austin. I tried to convince him to stay the whole next week because he's going to College Station, I think, for not ruining a surprise, but he's going to College Station the next week for the Texas A&M game. I told him to spend the whole week in the Lone Star State. Any Lone Star State listeners out there, will you let Chris Phillips stay at your house on Thanksgiving? I mean, he'll do a live show there. I'll do a live show with him. He doesn't even know I'm throwing himself out here. I just don't want the guy to come all the way back to Greenville, South Carolina, and then have to go back to the state of Texas. I think he should just drive the 90-hour, hour and 45 minutes, depending how fast you drive from Austin to College Station. Someone house this man. Let's get this done tonight on Dave Talks Ball. Someone house this man. Chris Phillips does not need to leave the state of Texas next week, folks. I don't care what happens. But, Texas got Kentucky this week, then at Texas A&M. We'll talk about the road to Atlanta. For Arkansas, get Louisiana Tech this week. If they get that win, I think Sam Pittman's back if he wants. Then they finish up at Missouri. Again, Sam Pittman has hip surgery, I think, scheduled at the end of the year. I think if they beat Louisiana Tech, Trey Biddy at 247, and again, I talk to people at Arkansas in that building all the time. They feel good about if they get to 6, he's going to be back. Only problem is we're going to be having the same conversations this next offseason, being like, oh, well, what does it take, 6 to 7? I don't know. I mean, look at the road trips next year. At Texas, at Ole Miss, at Tennessee, at LSU. Then they play Notre Dame in non-conference. I was talking to Arkansas staffer this week about that. Yeah, the schedule gets really tough next year. So it's just going to be the same song and dance. 6-6, guys. I say it all the time. When you're in year 3 and 4 and you go 6-6, 7-5, it does not move the needle internally or with the fan bases. Just calling a spade a spade. But Arkansas, if they can get to 6 this week against Louisiana Tech, he should be safe if he wants to be. Then you can go get, I mean, Shane Beamer got to monkey off his back with Eli Drinkwitz. And speaking of, that's what Shane Beamer, or that's what Sam Pittman and the boys will have to try to do as well. Speaking of Drinkwitz speaking of Shane Beamer getting the Eli Drinkwitz monkey off his back, South Carolina wins the game of the weekend, in my opinion, at the very least in the SEC. Missouri, South Carolina getting the 34-30 win in Willie B. It was a well-played game, too. That was a fun game. Brady Cook did play. What a football game, though. South Carolina just finding ways to win football games. I think Lenore Sellers is the most improved player in the entire league from week 1 to week 12. using this comparison, this comp, he's a better version at this point in his career than Anthony Richardson ever was at Florida. And he's got multiple years to progress. And I keep saying this, I don't think the Dow Loggins offense is a perfect fit for him or Dow Loggins. I think Anthony Richardson could go in imagine Lenore Sellers with like Dan Mullen. Imagine what he would do in Dan Mullen's system. It would be unbelievable. Offense bailed South Carolina out today. The offense bailed South Carolina out today. Or on Saturday. It did. I mean, the defense wasn't bad, but they gave up a score late. What a ball by Brady Cook to Luther Burden on that 4th and 5, the one-handed grab. And it was a quiet day from Luther Burden. Like, you're like, that's the Luther Burden we're used to seeing. But the offense stepped up, and they got the ball with just over a minute left, made a big play. Lenore Sellers making everybody look good. What can you say? He just keeps getting better. South Carolina keeps finding ways to win the game. It looked like everything was going against them in this game. It looked like Eli Drinkwitz was going to continue to win the Mayor's Cup of Columbia, the Columbia Mayor's Cup. It looked rough, but man, give South Carolina their flowers. They keep winning football games, folks, and they're still sitting there. If chaos really ensued, could be sitting there in the college football playoff. Missouri, I thought, played their best game of the season, even in a loss. I thought they played their best game of the season. Because, they looked a little inconsistent against Vandy, Boston College at times. But I thought this was their best game. Once they got that outside zone running with Nate Noel, and he changes that scheme up. Nate Noel, Cody Schrader fit the outside zone scheme, outside zone scheme, awesome. You could tell they really got that going. Nate Noel's comfortable in that. Brady Cook is still banged up, high ankle sprain, wrist injury. So he had against Alabama. He looked solid. Numbers-wise, it wasn't an overall great game, but still, I thought he went out there, gutted it out. You could tell Missouri was ready for this one. It was almost like they held Brady Cook out last week against Oklahoma, being like, we're going to save everything for South Carolina. Because, again, I told you, Eli Drinkwitz, Shane Beamer do not like each other. I actually thought there would be a little bit more celebration out of it. But no, these two dislike each other probably the most out of anyone in the league. I know Eli Drinkwitz wanted to stick it to Shane again, probably, just like Shane wanted to stick it to Eli. But again, like I mentioned, Brady Cook, 24 for 31, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, was not bad, especially in his return. Thought it was a good game overall from that perspective. Where does South Carolina go from here? Well, they get Wofford this week. The Terriers, that's going to be a win. That's 8-4 and 8-3. And then if they go to Clemson, that game was announced on ABC at noon Eastern Saturday after Thanksgiving. I think they can certainly win that game. If they played this week, I would pick them. South Carolina staring at 9-3 right down the barrel. This was the team I was most wrong on going into the year. I haven't really been wrong no more. LSU I nailed. But Alabama I'm about right. Tennessee's going to be 10-2, like I said. Missouri I had 9-3. South Carolina was definitely the one I was the most off on by far. In Vanderbilt, but everybody was off on Vanderbilt. I had Vanderbilt going 0-8. I had Mississippi State going 0-8. Got a lot of flack for that. That looks like it's going to be odds are, unless they beat Missouri this week, that will go as well. But South Carolina staring at 9-3 right down the chute. Where does Missouri go from here? So they get Mississippi State. They go to Starkville this week, and then they follow up with Arkansas. They're going to be favored to probably win both those. I think the Arkansas one could be a toss-up. Mississippi State this week, because I think Mississippi State and Jeff Levy are going to throw the kitchen sink, because I think this is their last chance to get an SEC win. Again, with all due respect, they could go play hard in Oxford. I don't think they will get that win, though. 9-3 is not a bad season when you're talking about you've missed your quarterback for a lot. But I'll say this. I was on another show today. What game did Missouri lose that they would have won with Brady Cook? Now, you could have said that if they lost to Oklahoma, but they still won that game with Drew Pine. So other than that, they didn't really – is the Alabama game closer? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think they win it. I think the record's still the same with Brady Cook. I just think it is what it is this year. This team had to take a step back a little bit. And I think the defense is even better than I thought it would be. It's not great, but I thought you're losing your best 2 corners, your best defensive lineman, replacing 3 defensive coaches, new DC, Corey Batoon. I thought you took a step back, but still 9-3. You go win your bowl game, guys. That's back-to-back 11 10-win seasons at Missouri. You're fired up. I think that should be the goal. That's what Eli Drinkwitz should be hammering home. DJ Lagway and the Gators shock the Tigers, folks. 2017, DJ Lagway in Florida getting the win. What a week for Florida. And DJ Lagway is just a massive difference for this team, and he's only a freshman. The Gators ended he wasn't making plays like Jalen Miller or Marcel Regis, but he was just extending those plays that obviously the third-string quarterback wasn't going to do. And again, your playbook, what folks don't understand, is so limited when you have a third-string quarterback in the game. Guys, it just is. It just is. Thought they got the run game going with Trevon Ball. And then I thought the 7 sacks against probably the best pass protecting offensive line in the entire conference was awesome. 7 sacks, 2 from Shamar James, 1 from Caleb Banks, George Gums, Cameron James, Tyreek Sack, TJ Searcy. They all had big games. I think that was the key. They made it real uncomfortable. Now, LSU was converting 3rd and 4th downs pretty regularly, but still when they needed to make a play on defense, they did. Some big drops for LSU. Got to give Florida kicker Trey Smack his flowers as well. He made big kicks to keep them in that to have a chance in the second half. I think for LSU, this is a weird – I saw Cole Kubelik mention it. Kind of a statistical anomaly, really, for the loss. They outgained Florida, outrushed Florida, doubled time of possession, fewer penalties, better on 3rd down, and they lost. Again, I didn't think LSU – people are going to be like, oh, after the Alabama game, they quit. I don't think it was that. I really don't. Excuse me. I had to get my shameless plug. Ghost Energy, guys. Pretty good. You probably get them as a sponsor, honestly. Pretty good energy drink here, no sugar, orange cream if you hadn't tried that flavor. But nonetheless, it wasn't a lack of effort or energy. They played hard. You watch LSU, it wasn't like, man, this team doesn't want to go play. I mean, again, there's so much social media, all the information out there. They knew the path to the SEC championship game, and it was a win out. And if Arkansas beat Missouri, they were in. That wasn't that far-fetched. Now, it's a hindsight 2020, it's over now. But I think they just didn't execute. They've been the same LSU team we've seen all year. Very inconsistent. The offense won't commit to the run, even though it's there at times. Defense was fine. But again, Lagway extended plays, and Florida won with Elijah Badger won the 50-50 balls. And that's kind of the difference when you're on the road in the SEC. What's next for Florida? Get Ole Miss at home this week. We'll look ahead to that one. And then if they beat Florida State, guys, they beat Florida State. Gators are bowl eligible. 6-6. We said he keeps his job. How about Scott Strickland doubled down on that, baby? He was sitting on 18, and he said, hit me at the blackjack table, and he flopped a 3. Now, that 3 is being turned over right now. You go lose to Ole Miss and Florida State, nobody's really fired up about it. But you just go beat Florida State, play respectable against Ole Miss. That 3, you hit 21, you're beating that dealer, though. But he hit on 18. Scott Strickland hit on 18, folks. What's next for LSU? They host Vandy in the gold uniforms. I mean, I think more people will be intrigued to see, do they go the mustard bottle, which I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're not going to go that. I bet they go white tops or white helmet, gold jersey, white pants. Again, for the people that did not see it, let's pull it back up in case you've been living under a rock here the last few hours. Let me share my screen here with you. This is what LSU football put out right before the evening. Again, this is not a distraction from Brian Kelly. This has been planned for months. Anyone who's ever worked in athletics departments know you just can't put together a gold uniform in a matter of 48 hours just because they lost to Florida. They never wear these. This has been planned. Look who they are playing. Again, I predicted Vanderbilt 0-8. Scott Woodward and LSU's administration probably picked them to go 0-8. It's the Vanderbilt game at night. They knew this is – you don't usually do alternate jerseys against your big team. This would have been embarrassing if they did this against Alabama a couple of weeks ago and then got skull dragged like they did. But, what are we thinking about this uniform, folks? What are we thinking? Again, I said put in the comments 1 through 5, 1 being you never want to see the uniform again. 5, you would change it to let's do 10 actually, 1 through 10. 1, you would never want to see that uniform again. You wouldn't piss on it. It was on fire. 10 would be let's make this our full-time uniform. Me, it just doesn't scream LSU to me. LSU screams yellow helmet, gold helmets, white top, gold pants. It just doesn't scream LSU to me. I don't even mind when you throw in the purple uniform every now and then, honestly. Gold, I don't know. It's not bad. Just doesn't, I don't know. Just doesn't scream LSU. Just doesn't scream LSU. Nothing wrong. Nothing bad. Just wanted to talk about that. The rest of the SEC before we get to some comments. 548 of you out there listening right now. I appreciate every one of you guys. Let's get to the rest of the league. We had Alabama getting the 52-7 win over Mercer. That was a pretty good job. Saw a lot of walk-ons. I thought Austin Mack and Ty Simpson, the 2 backup quarterbacks, looked pretty good. In case both, I think it's going to be a battle in the spring between those two. Again, a lot of football left to determine if Jalen Milroe will be back next year. Bama gets a big 52-7 win. Texas A&M like to stretch the field. They really wanted to test Marcel Reed and Connor Whitman's arm here, specifically Marcel Reed. He threw it 31 times. They didn't really try to get the run game going. Thought it was a solid performance overall, though. I think they know they want to reach the ultimate goals. Mike Elko, as big of a you-know-what he can be at times. Anybody who's worked with him would tell you that. Very smart football coach, very smart guy in general. I think he's working those kinks out against the 2-8 New Mexico State team because he knows, like, hey, even if we throw some picks, Marcel Reed and Connor Whitman did in this game, we'll still win. It's not going to kill us. I think he knows we're going to have to develop the passing game if we want to go beat Texas and make noise in Atlanta and throughout the playoffs as well. But Texas A&M getting the 38-3 win over New Mexico State. Auburn getting the 48-14 win over ULM. Auburn moves to 4-6. They're going to have to beat Texas A&M and Alabama to get to bowl eligibility. The big one out of that one, Cam Coleman makes the nasty one-handed snag. That's kind of wrote home about that. Once I saw the line come out at 25, it worried me a little bit. I'd seen ULM play from a distance. I was like, geez, Auburn had to play terrible to lose that game. Auburn went and handled business. So if you're an Auburn fan, it's something you got to be fired up about as well. Thought Peyton Thorne was fine, 22 for 32, 286, 5 touchdowns. And then Kentucky, if you haven't moved to basketball season yet, folks, 48-6 over in state, Murray State, who is now 1-10. Overall, Brock Vandegrift got some things going on the ground. I thought Jamarian Wilcox, and we've been looking for RB2, RB3 for Kentucky all year. 13 carries, 123 yards. I know it was Murray State, but still something to get fired up about. Those are some non-conference games across the league as well. Before we get to the road to Atlanta, let's look at some of the comments. Let's go to it. Joe D already put his in. Hans the Gray, my favorite Oklahoma Sooner, baby. Hans, tell me in the comments. I was talking on a show today. What do you think? And I was doing the Oklahoma-Alabama preview. What do you think the crowd's going to be like in Norman on Saturday night? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. But he says, Joe, the over-under for Oklahoma-Alabama is 49.5 last I looked, with Alabama being a 14-point favorite. That's a tough one for them to lose because Oklahoma can't find the paint. I would agree with that. WTP Sports Dudes, good show. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for listening. Joe K, Texas D is legit and can advance them in the CFP as long as Quinn Ewers doesn't turn it over. If Deputy Quinn shows up, Texas beats anyone. He's just not consistent. I'm with you. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. We're going to go road to Atlanta, Joe, and then I'm ranking the top six, the six SEC playoff contenders, ceilings 1-6 and floors 1-6. They look a little different, but you're right. Quinn Ewers, it's like, dude, I've seen you go into Tuscaloosa and be the sheriff, or be the deputy, I should say. I've seen you go into Ann Arbor, as average as Michigan is this year. Still a tough environment. Week 2, place was rocking back then. I've seen you play well in those environments. Quinn Ewers, I trust when he's played at his best. When he's at his ceiling, telling you to watch out. Monty Endicott, appreciate you listening, man. No one wants to play South Carolina right now. You're right. South Carolina's a hot football team, man. I think they're definitely a top 15 team in the country right now. Nobody want to play them. I'd put them in the top 6 of my rankings. I'd put them above Texas A&M right now. And Tennessee would be a toss-up, honestly. Joe K, who's going to be the best quarterback next year? Arch Manning or Lenore Stellars? I'd love either in a Cowboys jersey in 2026. QB, best quarterback going to the country or in the conference next year? Yeah, I mean, those two would be in that conversation. Then you just got to think about, does Jalen Milroe come back? I know Garrett Nussmeier's had his struggles, but Garrett Nussmeier will be in that conversation of coming back. Carson Beck didn't get better. I've talked to people inside Georgia's football building. It says they're hearing from Beck's team that he's going to come want a lot of money from an NIL perspective if he doesn't get the draft feedback he does. Now, again, Georgia has a lot of big games to figure all this out. They still got a Georgia Tech game, most likely a college football playoff game unless some upsets happen and they get into Atlanta. But multiple playoff games, national televised games for these NFL guys to get their eyes and be in person and evaluate him. So a long way away to make decisions on guys like him and Jalen Milroe. It is. It's a long way away because they have so many big games in front of them. But, yeah, I mean, I would agree with you there, Joe K. Just off the top of my head, DJ Lagway. Lagway's got to be in that conversation. I mean, he changes Florida for the better. Nico will be in there. I imagine he only improves. I think for Nico, it's not a matter of if, but when. Not a matter of if, but when. Just a weird year for them offensively. Weird year. Halo Master. You can read that yourself, guys, if y'all want. Monte Endicott. What is Tennessee's realistic path to the CFP? Monty, I appreciate you listening. I just think Tennessee's going to be on the outside looking in as we stand right now. I'll be interested to see how far they drop tomorrow. And again, we'll be reacting live, myself, Chris Phillips, and Cole Thompson, as we've done for the previous 2 college football playoff reactions. Realistic, I think they need to be cheering against Ole Miss to lose to Florida, Alabama to lose to Auburn or Oklahoma, any big upsets in the SEC, Texas losing, A&M losing to Auburn, any of that helps them. I think they need to be big Ohio State fans. I think they need to be big Army to beat Notre Dame, USC to beat Notre Dame. That would help them. That's stuff that would help Tennessee. I just think out of the 6, Tennessee is going to be that team that's going to be left out, right, wrong, or indifferent. I just think when you look at the resume, eye test, what is Tennessee's most complete game of the year? Let me ask you that. What is Tennessee's most complete game of the year? Best win, Alabama. But let's be honest, they didn't score a point in the first half. It wasn't like it was some pretty game where they just beat Alabama. It was a one-score win, but it's awesome. That's their best win. It's one of the better wins in the SEC. But outside of that, if you beat Vanderbilt, your second best win's at Vanderbilt. That's your second best win. And I know they beat Alabama, but come on. If they finish 6-6 at Vanderbilt, 6-6 Vanderbilt, come on. That's your second best win. Or maybe NC State. Again, guys, the teams that played Kentucky, Mississippi State this year, and Georgia did it, Tennessee's done it. Some of these teams, Ole Miss has played both these teams. Didn't really help your strength of schedule, guys. Joe K, that was a heartbreaker in Columbia for the team from Columbia, Missouri. You're right. It felt like it was like, man, Beamer's never going to get this monkey off his back. And it's going to be, man, Drakowitz did to Shane Beamer what Mike Elko did to him. I mean, he had Beamer thinking my guy Drew Pine was going to be playing all week, just like Elko had him thinking Marcel Reed was going to be playing all week. And then he pulled the old switcheroo and Connor Wigman and then went off. You know Shane Beamer was worried about that. Like, my God, he just tricked me into thinking Brady Cook was not going to play, and it was going to be Drew Pine, and we were going to be celebrating early in this game, but that was not the case. So that was Missouri's best played game of the season, and I know it was in a loss. That was just a good football game across the board. I thought it was the most well played game across the board. It was a fun one. Give both those teams credit. Missouri belongs in the zoo. Thank you, Jake Long. Jake Long, come on, man. If Sellers ain't clutch, Gamecocks lost that one. That is definitely true there. That was the first game that offense really, you felt like, carried it for him. Ons the Gray. Lots of talk locally about Dan Mullen coming to Oklahoma. Thoughts? I'm hoping for the Art Buckle talk. Is OC? Speaking of, I brought Dan up not too long. Can you imagine Dan Mullen with Lenore Sellers? Man, look what he did with Dak. Look what he did with Nick Fitzgerald. I mean, Dan Mullen's in SEC history is one of the best quarterback developers where he plays to that quarterback strength. He did it with tons of guys. I'd be interesting. I didn't even think about that till that. I agree, man. Ons the Gray. I think the crowd will be there last weekend in the Palace. We need to make it worth it. He's talking about. Appreciate you answering that. I was just interested to see what the crowd. I mean, again, I know Oklahoma fans are loyal, some of the best fans in the country. I knew they would show up. It's just I didn't really know what the bye week would. With the energy around Memorial Stadium and in Norman will be like this weekend with Alabama coming to town. So I just wanted to ask. Figured I'd ask my favorite sooner. Jake Long, I can't stand Mizzou. Is it Eli Drinkwitz or is it just Mizzou there, Jake? Appreciate you listening either way. Midwest Picker, how did the AP jump Georgia over Miss when they beat Arkansas and Georgia by 50 in their last two games? I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong, Midwest. I appreciate you listening to the show, brother. I don't think you're wrong. I think you got a fair point. I can't say you're wrong. I'll be honest with you. I don't think the AP's wrong either. I mean, Georgia has better wins, and I know head-to-head matters, but I think you're right too. I think you got a case because I think Ole Miss is probably playing. We'll talk about it. Ceiling floors. I'm about to rank them here after we get to the road to Atlanta. Monty, he's back. If SMU wins the ACC, do they get two teams in with Miami? I think the ACC is down to one, my man. I think it is. Mr. Bucknuts, just on time. Who's going to the SEC Championship? The road to Atlanta is right after this comment. Joe K, not speaking for Oklahoma, but Texas fans want to be the division or pod in 2026. Yeah, divisions don't look so bad now with all these tiebreakers. But let's get to the road to Atlanta. Just breaking it down for you here, folks. The road, like I said, coming in, it is clear skies, no rain, as far as we see. As far as we can see right now. Pretty simple. It's pretty simple math, even for someone who wasn't good at math like myself. It's pretty 2 + 2 = 4 math. Alabama wins out, and everything goes chalk. And for the boomers out there listening, the older people don't know what chalk means. Everything goes as planned. There's no major upsets. All the favorites win. The SEC championship game will be Alabama versus the winner of Texas and Texas A&M the last week at Kyle Field. Like the Texas A&M game needed any more oomph about it, man. These first two teams hadn't played since Justin Tucker put it through the uprights. I think 2011 in Kyle Field. I mean, it's going to be a big game no matter what. But now, SEC championship berth on the line, Texas A&M playing for their college football playoff lives, makes it even bigger. Now, if A&M were to lose at Auburn and actually A&M. Like everybody was getting on Texas A&M's ass about losing at South Carolina. No, that was just a tough SEC road game against a team that's probably going to go win at least 8 games, if not 9. I think South Carolina would beat Clemson if they played tomorrow. So I'm going to say they're going to win 9 games. That's not a bad loss for A&M, guys. I never even thought it going into it if they lost. I picked A&M to win that game. But even if they lost that game, I'm going to go into the week as like, this isn't A&M, guys. This is a tough road game after an emotional home game against LSU, which that win doesn't look as good as it did at the time either now. But this would be A&M. If you go lose at Jordan-Hare this week and your college football playoff hopes are now done and you kind of dampered the big one next week at Kyle Field. But it's pretty simple. Alabama wins out, they're in against the winner of Texas A&M. If Alabama wins out and A&M were to slip up in Jordan-Hare this week, where the line, 2.5, 3 last time I checked, we'll talk about it here in a minute. If they lose to Auburn and then go to Kyle Field and beat Texas the next week and give Texas is 10-2 at that point, and A&M would be done for the SEC race, it would be Alabama, Georgia. So that's your 2 scenarios. Odds are it's going to be Alabama versus probably the winner of Texas A&M. If Texas A&M were to slip up to Auburn this week and then go beat Texas in College Station, it would be Georgia. So Alabama looks like they got the best shot as long as they don't slip up. Remember, their 2 next games are at Oklahoma this week on Saturday night, and then Auburn, and it was announced that game's at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, and the Texas A&M Texas game will be the night game, which we all expected there. So the SEC, the road to Atlanta looks pretty simple to me, folks. I mean, it's not really anything too wild. I don't think. Mr. Bucknuts, Ole Miss and Bama are the cream in the SEC, in my opinion. I think that's a fair statement. Texas beats A&M, they in. Yes, if Texas beats A&M, they're definitely in the SEC championship and the playoffs. On's the gray. I'm all for the 14 pod system. Yeah, we could. Phil McIntosh, remember that God loves you and Jesus gave himself for you, John 3:16. Thank you, John. Thank you, Phil McIntosh. Appreciate you saying that. Too bad, Mr. Bucknut, bad. Too bad Bama don't play Ole Miss. Yeah, that'd been a fun. I'd lean Ole Miss probably wins that game right now. That'd be a hell of a matchup, though. You're right. Those two you could rank them the top 2 teams, and you get no argument from me in the SEC right now. All right, that's the road to Atlanta. Let's do a little ceiling floor. Let's see how you'll like this exercise, guys. The playoff contenders, ceilings and floors. So I'm going to rank it 1 through 6. Remember, I'm just doing the playoff. Sorry, South Carolina fans that are listening. These are the 2 loss and 1 loss teams, with the only 1 loss team being in the league, Texas. So if some crazy things happen, South Carolina, we'll go redo this segment for you. But right now, I'm talking Texas, Ole Miss, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and Texas A&M. I'm ranking them at their best, their ceiling, 1 through 6, and then at their worst, their floors. So let's get right to it. We're starting off with ceilings. Coming in at coming in at number 6. The ceiling. This is when they're at their very best, comparing them to the other 5 teams in this contention. Texas A&M. You saw Mike Elko this past week. He started stretching the field vertically against a New Mexico State team, knowing that if they did make some mistakes and turn it over, it wasn't going to cost them this game. But he knows, because he's a smart enough football coach, they want to go beat Texas, go reach their ultimate goal, win the SEC, go to the college football playoff. They got to stretch the field vertically. It's just the way college football is now. I think you saw South Carolina. There's tape. I think Marcel Reed being the full-time quarterback, it's kind of like Vanderbilt. There's some tape out there now. These coordinators talk. They know how to defend this. I think that ceiling 6 out of these 6 teams. I just think it is. Number 5, Tennessee, again, hasn't played a complete game all year. Again, what is their most complete game? NC State? I even think people who wear the brightest orange glasses would tell you Bama was a win, but it wasn't necessarily pretty. Again, you got blanked in the first half against the defense who'd been struggling at that point. Now Alabama's been turning people over like it's their job here recently. Number 4th in turnover margin, but still, I think Tennessee, though. I mean, I like the defense. That travels. Again, didn't produce any sacks this past week against the struggling Georgia offensive line. But that just shows you college football is week to week, folks. Changes game plans. Matchups matter. I just don't trust the Tennessee offense. I mean, outside Dylan Sampson, if he went down, and that's why I'm saying Tennessee needs to find an RB2. If he went down, Tennessee would be up, you know what, without a paddle. They'd be up shit creek without a paddle, folks. Again, I just don't have a lot of faith in this Tennessee offense. Dropping balls. You saw Dante Thornton. Nico's been inconsistent. The offensive line. Only thing I trust, Dylan Sampson. I think they're at 5. Call me crazy, folks. Call me crazy. Georgia, right now, ceiling. I think they're the 4th best. Again, The tight ends got into it. Oscar Delp, Lawson Lucky, Ben Yurson got into it this week. They played good. Offensive line played well. But they're missing some outside weapons. Dylan Bell a little banged up. Arian Smith's going to have to step up. London Humphreys. I just don't really like the weapons on the outside. I think the offensive line's a little inconsistent. Carson Beck's inconsistent. I think the defense has some holes at times on the back end. If Georgia's not playing at home, it scares me. It does. I think this is Georgia's lowest ceiling since Kirby Smart outside of his first year in 2016. I think it is. I really do. I don't see this team still winning a national championship. On Sunday Fun Day yesterday, Chris Phillips was talking like, I'm back on the Georgia train. I was like, I'm not right now. I got to see it again. I mean, Tennessee came out and hit them in the mouth 10-0 right off the bat. Just Tennessee left some meat on the bone and let Georgia at home back against the wall. Best adjustment coaching staff in the entire country, definitely the SEC. That's Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann, and them right now. I thought Mike Bobo had a good game plan going against Tim Banks. I don't know. I just don't think the ceiling's that high for this team right now. Maybe that changes just how we see it right now. Number 3, Alabama. I think their ceiling is what you saw in that first half against Georgia and what they did in Baton Rouge against LSU. And thank God LSU was not wearing those gold uniforms that time. That would have been an all-time, put it in the LaVore, whatever people say. That would be an all-time embarrassing game if you were wearing an alternate uniform. That one. Conversation for another day. But Bama's ceiling, when Jalen Milroe's incorporated in the run game, he's coming off a bye week. He's as healthy as he can be. Bama's ceiling's through the roof. They're taking a ball, they're having takeaways at an alarming rate for other offenses. I mean, they're 4th in turnover margin now, man. I think they have 14 interceptions in the last 4 games. It's unbelievable. They are forcing turnovers. They're bend but don't break. They're not just stopping the run. They're not getting you 3 and out, but they're forcing turnovers. And when Jalen Milroe is running the football and a factor in the run game, he's hard to stop. Add on Jeremy Bernard and Ryan Williams on the outside. I like Alabama's ceiling. Texas, 2 guys. I said it. I've seen Quinn Ewers in these big game environments. I've seen him in Tuscaloosa. I've seen him in Ann Arbor. I've seen him in the college football playoff. When Quinn Ewers is comfortable playing his best, I think Texas, and I mean, by process of elimination here, you know who number 1 is. I think these 2 teams are 1A, 1B when they're playing their absolute best. I think the Texas defense is legit. It's legit now. Has it been overly tested? No, but we're in week 12, guys. Going on week 13. We're in week 13. We just finished week 12. They are a good defense, and it's the best they've had under Sark. Again, I love Jedi Barron. I love going back and watching his film on Sundays after games. Texas, if they could get the run game going, I'd probably move them to number 1. I just don't know if they'll get it going, but I do. I trust Quinn Ewers because I've seen it. I've seen a proof of concept, him winning big games in hostile environments and in neutral sites. I think when it really gets going, this Texas team is really good. Number 1 right now, call me crazy, the Ole Miss Rebels. You got Jackson Dartnado coming into his own, Dart Vader, whatever you want to call him. I know Cole made that name up for him. I had a couple Ole Miss buddies text me about that. Dart Vader, 3rd year in the system. They're getting Trey Harris back this week, Juice Wells, Caden Prescore, Daquan Wright, sorry. Ulysses Bentley, the offensive line, played pretty well against Georgia. They're rocking and rolling. Jordan Watkins. They have a lot of weapons. Ole Miss does. The defense, you heard Kirby Smart say it's probably the most talented defense they've played. I think it is, man. Princely U on the outside there, Jared Ivey, Centurion Perkins, JJ Pegues. They have dudes, Pooh Paul, the highest rated linebacker in college football. They have dudes on that defensive front, Trey Amos, John Saunders in the background. This is one of the best Ole Miss defenses of all time, definitely in my lifetime. I think when Ole Miss is playing their best, they have the highest ceiling in the league right now. So ranking 1 through 6, ceilings, before we go to floors, coming in at number 6, Texas A&M. When they're playing their best, I think they're the 6th best team out of these college football playoff contenders. Tennessee comes in at number 5, Georgia 4, Bama 3, Texas 2, Ole Miss 1. Let's go to floor. Let's rank it starting at 6. Lowest 4 when they're playing their worst. I think it's Tennessee. Again, I haven't seen a complete game by Tennessee this year. I've seen it from the other 5 teams in this. I saw it at A&M against Missouri. That's why they're at 5. I haven't seen a complete game from Tennessee. I've at least seen a complete game by Texas A&M here against a solid Missouri team. That was when Brady Cook was healthy. Number 4, Georgia staying right there in that thick in the middle of it, that 4 spot. We've seen it. It's been ugly before. Kentucky, Auburn in the first half, Alabama in the first half. I mean, Tennessee in the first quarter. Ole Miss. Their floor can be bad this year, guys. There's no denying that. So I think Georgia is at 4. Bama, and again, until South Florida went below 500 last week, Bama had not played a team with a losing record. That is the only team on their schedule that they had played with a losing record. South Carolina and Vanderbilt help Bama's get. Bama's not played bad teams this year. They have the best resume by far out of the 6 teams. They do. They do. The best win, Georgia. Second best win, LSU on the road. Oh, and they got a win against a 9-3 team, most likely against South Carolina. I mean, Bama's got a pretty good resume, folks. I think they got the best resume when you're comparing the 6 teams, even Texas with 1 loss. I think Bama comes in at 3, though, their floor. I think Ole Miss's floor is just a little bit worse than Texas, just because that Kentucky loss. I've seen it. I just think Texas's defense is going to be that thing it holds on. The thing I like about Texas and Ole Miss is they do have the 2 best defenses, I think, out of these groups. I mean, we've seen Georgia's defense, their front 7, take over at times. I don't trust Jonell Aguero, the star, the nickelback, whatever you want to call him, consistently. I still think they have some holes in that back end. I still think you can get the guys like C.J. Allen and Small Munden with eye discipline at times. I think overall Texas has the lowest floor, Ole Miss the second lowest floor. So ranking the floors, Tennessee coming in at 6, A&M 5, Georgia 4, Alabama 3, Ole Miss 2, Texas 1. I just want to do this exercise, see what y'all think. Y'all tell me where I was right, where I was wrong, who you think it is. Let's go to the comments. Midwest picker, Bama and Ole Miss may meet in the playoffs 9 versus 8. Yeah. If Bama made it to the SEC championship game and lost, Bama's probably in that 8-9 spot. I would agree with you. Joe, you can Google for SEC tiebreaker, ML Reds 2024 SEC. Yeah, you're right. That guy does a good job making that. And that's where I got a lot of it. I mean, it's pretty simple, the SEC. If it's all chalk, everybody wins, no big upsets. It's Bama's in versus the winner of Texas versus Texas A&M. If A&M were to drop a game this week at Auburn, it would be, and then A&M were to beat Texas the next week, it would be Bama, Georgia. So it's pretty simple. It's pretty much down to 4 teams. And then a big upset would get Georgia back into this thing. Mr. Bucknuts, how will the SEC fare playing in Ohio or Penn State in the freezing cold? Ohio State would be a challenge. I don't know how. You tell me, Mr. Bucknuts. You probably follow the Big Ten. Why does Penn State automatically get the pass in? It's like nobody talks about them. It's like a bouncer letting all the people in. It's like, come on, man, you're in. And Penn State's even shocked they're automatically getting in. I mean, what's their best win of the season? I mean, I'm pulling up the schedule right now. Penn State's best win. I mean, what is it? I mean, at West Virginia, who may be below 500, probably Illinois, the 21-7 win against Illinois, maybe at Wisconsin. I mean, Wisconsin took Oregon down the wire last week. I don't know. What's their best win? I mean, the only team they played Ohio State. They blew the 10-0 lead. I mean, I don't really know what Penn State has a lot to hang their hat on. They're getting in, folks. If they win out, as long as they end up beating, as long as they don't slip up at Minnesota and Maryland, which, I mean, at Minnesota could be interesting. They're in. They finished 11-1. They're in. Mr. Bucknuts, Buckeyes versus Rebels for the Natty. See that? Mr. Bucknuts, the name. Yeah. I don't know how Penn State gets a pass. But moving on, let's do a little SEC basketball review, guys. We're starting to get in the midst of it. I know a lot of people don't start following college basketball until we're in January, but you know what? This guy does. I'm your lead college basketball analyst here at the SEC Unfiltered. We're going to talk about it. My favorite week in the entire week is next week. Feast week, guys, along with college football rivalry week. It's phenomenal. It's better than master weeks, guys. I don't care what people say. Let's just review some of the week that was quickly because there were a lot of them. Bama dropping the game at Purdue at Mackey Arena, 87-78. Alabama just didn't shoot well. Shot 11% from 3 in the first half. Mark Sears, Grant Nelson did not play well. Purdue only turned the ball over 3 times, shot 56% from the field. I mean, they have 2 of the best guards in the country in Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer. So as to be pretty, I actually thought this was a very well played game. Similar to how I thought the Missouri-South Carolina football game was played well. At Mackey Arena, second longest winning streak in the country. It's going to be a tough game for Bama no matter what. Bama, as bad as they played in the first half, it took a Fletcher Lawyer fadeaway 3 to put Purdue up 2 at half. But I think overall, NATO just kind of got to figure out, hey, with Cliff Amori, the Rutgers transfer can't stay on the floor because he's in foul trouble. You got to have help to double the big man when Grant Nelson's at the 5 spot. He just can't do it right now. I mean, the Trey Kaufman-Wren kid for Purdue went for 26 points, 8 boards. I mean, even NATO said post-game he didn't think their big guy could do that to him. So they're still learning the roster. This roster is going to be fine, folks. It's going to be fine. I just wanted to put that in there as well, bring that up. Bama's going to be fine. They got a big matchup on Wednesday that I will be going to. It's in Birmingham. Illinois comes to town, Legacy Arena. I'll be making the short 2.5 hour trip over there to watch that basketball game. Bama's going to be fine, but tough loss early on Friday. Also, we had some good matchups on Friday. We had Florida getting the 87-74 win over Florida State. Shouldn't have been that close. Walter Clayton Jr. went off 25 points. Florida just looks like a big physical team, dude. Against a bunch of offensive rebounds. Defense should be much improved this year. I thought it was a big win for Florida. It's a solid, not great Florida State team. I thought Texas A&M was the big winner of the weekend. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. 78-64 win over Ohio State. Ohio State beat Texas to open up the season, last Monday in Vegas? I mean, it's like the Trey Johnson show, and no one else helped him out. But Ohio State got a big win. South Carolina fans will remember Michie Johnson's on that roster. But I thought Texas A&M at Reed Arena, they needed it. Typical Texas A&M game. After the first 5 minutes, they controlled it, dominated the glass, dominated on the defensive side of the ball. Wade Taylor, 15 points, a couple guys in double figures. That was a big bounce-back win for A&M and Buzz Williams after a disappointing opening loss to UCF. They got that back. Georgia, Mike White gets the 77-69 win over Georgia Tech in Atlanta on Friday night. Silas Demery doing his thing. I think RJ Godfrey's going to be a big piece. Again, the numbers aren't going to show you that. But I think Asa Newell will be big. Blue Kane, Tyron Lawrence from Vanderbilt. They're that team, that 11th team that could maybe be that team that gets into the NCAA tournament. I actually think they're better than I even projected them going into the season. I had them at 11, but just eye test is like, they're playing pretty good basketball there. Watch out for Georgia. Thought that was the best night over the weekend from Friday through Sunday. Saturday's action, Indiana they went on a quick run. Indiana getting the 87-71 win over South Carolina. Colin Murray Bulls in foul trouble. I mean, if he's not going, South Carolina's going to have a hard time winning basketball games. I mean, Lamont Paris said it. You can't get down the early hole that they did on the road and in a place like Assembly Hall in Bloomington, Indiana, and expect to win. You can't let them go on a 17-1 run. Nick Pringle was the highlight, 13 points, 11 rebounds, the Alabama transfer. South Carolina 2-2. They're going to get better. They just got to find another score to help out Colin Murray Bulls when he gets into foul trouble or teams just take him away. I thought Ole Miss had an under-the-radar win this weekend. 84-69 win in South Haven against Colorado State, who is now 3-1. That was an NCAA tournament Colorado State team last week. They controlled it from really start to finish. Juju Murray did a phenomenal job. I thought you had some other Malik Dia had 11 points, 4 boards. Jalen Murray, I mentioned him. Matthew Morrell coming off injury, 10 points, and really his first real action. I feel like he's been on the team since I was in middle school. I think Michael Brown-Jones is a better defender than when Jamin Brakefield is. Again, I think this is the best game Ole Miss has played. They've left a lot to be desired in prior matchups against South Alabama last week, but this was a big win. No one's going to talk about it because it was on a Saturday of college football. But again, I thought this was a big win. Oklahoma getting an 85-64 win over Stetson against the Hatters. I think the most consistent thing you notice about Porter Moser's team is Kobe Elvis keeps doing his thing. 24 points on 9 of 15 shooting, 4 for 8 from beyond the arc. They just got to find a little bit more scoring out of them. Oklahoma isn't really that challenged in non-conference play, so I don't think they're really going to be tested till just off the top of my head. I think they open up at Alabama in conference play. So that'll be really their first test. Again, not expected to win that, but Vanderbilt gets the 94-81 win over Jackson State. The problem with this is it's going to hurt them in the net rankings, folks, because I think the line here was like 25 points. This game was back and forth. They only won by 13. If I was a Vanderbilt fan, again, good win from Art Byington. It's your first year. The thing that would concern me, though, is getting out rebounded 43-32 by Mo Williams' bunch at Jackson State. They're 0-4. They're not a very good basketball team. That would concern me, getting out rebounded like that. And Texas just dominating the Delta Devils. The poor Delta Devils just got rocked by 2 SEC teams this past week. Missouri on Wednesday, and Texas this past weekend, 89-49. Arthur Kaluma, 18 points, 7 boards. Trey Johnson doing Trey Johnson things. 6 for 9 from the field, 3 for 5 from down the arc for 18 points. Then moving to yesterday's action. Tennessee get the 103-68 win over Austin Peay, a pretty solid Austin Peay team. I thought across the board, pretty solid performance by Tennessee. Igor Milicic, the Charlotte transfer, 23 points on 11 of 14 shooting, over 1 from beyond the arc. Zakai Ziegler I think they're going to put a lot on his shoulder. Kenny was staying that through a whole season. Cade Phillips, that was somebody Rick Barnes was wanting to see continually step up. Thought he did, 13 points and 9 boards himself. Then I thought Mississippi State bounced back from a bad first half, could not get back on transition defensively, but they come back and get a 78-73 win in South Haven, where Ole Miss played on Saturday. Mississippi State played on Sunday. I think they played where the Grizzly team, the G League Memphis Grizzly team is. But Mississippi State was down 39-28, down 11 at half against a solid Utah team. Big comeback in the second half. Josh Hubbard, he's up there. I know Mark Sears did not play well against Purdue, but Mark Sears, Janai Broom, Josh Hubbard, three of the consistent players in this league night in, night out. Thought Keyshawn Murphy off the bench, 18 points and 14 rebounds really helped them out. Overall, they need help. Josh Hubbard needs a little bit more help. 24% from the three-point range is what Mississippi State was on 35% of overall shooting. Someone like R.J. Melendez is going to have to help him out. Kanye Clary, the Penn State transfer, Riley Kugel, who's been at Florida and Kansas for a semester. Claudel Harris is going to have to help as well. But a big win. That was a big win, big rally in the second half, down double digits at half to get that win for Chris Jans and his squad. So that is a little college basketball weekend preview. Just looking ahead to some matchups this week. Again, like I mentioned, let's see what that Arkansas game was. Arkansas ended up winning 91-72, folks. Auburn is currently up at half, 50-37 against North Alabama. I figured this would be a game Arkansas will be a little sleepy in. I mean, I mentioned Jedi Broom, one of the more consistent players in the league, at half, 17 points, 7 boards. Tomorrow, you got Kentucky and Lipscomb. You got Florida A&M at Florida, Alabama A&M at Georgia, Charleston Southern at LSU. On Wednesday, you got Southern University at Texas A&M. I mentioned I'll be at this one on the SEC Network. Number 25, Illinois, heading to Birmingham in the CM Newton Classic to face Alabama. On Thursday, you have Mercer at South Carolina, Syracuse at Texas, and then Vanderbilt at Nevada. East Texas A&M, who I think used to be Texas A&M Corpus Christi, changed their name, at Oklahoma. Oral Roberts at Ole Miss, and Virginia at Tennessee. So the big ones this week, Virginia at Tennessee, Syracuse at Texas, Vanderbilt, Nevada will be interesting. And then obviously Alabama, Illinois, and Birmingham will be the ones to keep an eye on. And we'll talk about that on Thursday as well. Let's go to the comments before we look ahead real fast. Joe T, bring it up. Oh, Mr. Bucks. Illinois, best win for Penn State, I'd agree. Penn State and Indiana have no impressive wins. Bucks going to throttle Indiana. Longhorns play Syracuse and Brooklyn on Thursday and probably Texas Tech on Friday. Texas fans will get a better idea what we got. You're right. They need to win one of those games, Joe, just because that Ohio State, I know it's week one and you're in March or game one in March. I didn't even think about that one, but still you want to go get that one back. Like A&M after losing to UCF needed to go get that Ohio State win at home this past Friday. I feel like Texas at least needs to get one of those, starting with Syracuse and Brooklyn on Wednesday. All right, before we get you out of here, guys, let's do a little Week 13 look ahead. Starting off noon Eastern on ABC, number 11 Ole Miss heading to Florida. Florida trying to get to bowl eligible. Ole Miss continuing on their playoff run. Ole Miss favored by 10.5, point total 55.5. How do we feel about this one, folks? I mean, I think DJ Lagway gives them a chance in this one. If it was at night, you maybe feel a little better. Ole Miss coming off a bye week, which they needed off that emotional win against Georgia 2 weeks ago. It'll be an interesting game here. Very interesting game. I think 10.5, maybe a little much. I mean, it's always funny. You feel a little bit better about games on Monday than you do Thursday. Like I heard Greg McElroy today saying, he's like, if he had to pick today, he thinks Vanderbilt beats LSU. But he's like, my opinion on Wednesday, Thursday may change. Feel the same way about this. I don't think Ole Miss is going to lose, just depending on how close this will be. 12:45 a.m. or 12:45 p.m. Eastern on the SEC Network. 2-8 UMass heads to number 12 Georgia. Remember, UMass just fired Don Brown today, the former Michigan DC. He's out, so they'll bring a interim head coach in. Georgia favored by 42. Point total 55.5. Georgia should handle this. Remember, they're done with conference play, so they get UMass this week, and then Georgia Tech Friday. That Friday in Athens. It's in Athens, right? Yeah, it's in Athens. They were in Georgia Tech last year. 12 o'clock, 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus. UTEP coming in at 2-8, heads to Tennessee. Tennessee favored by 42. Point total 52.5. Tennessee just needs to get out of this one healthy. Go take care of business. Get some guys out. Let's get healthy rolling into that Vanderbilt game. 3:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Kentucky heads to Austin. That's where Chris Phillips and the SEC Unfiltered Tour will be. Texas favored by 20.5. Point total on 47.5. Again, it's week to week. I could see Texas coming out and having their best offensive plan. I mean, I think Texas wins this game. It's just don't look ahead to that. For Texas and Texas A&M this week, do not look ahead to that matchup next week. 4 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus. 5-6 Wofford heading to Williams-Brice Stadium to face the 21st ranked Gamecocks. No line. South Carolina should handle business for a big one in Clemson next week. Louisiana Tech at Arkansas at 4 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus. Arkansas favored by 23, point total 49.5. Arkansas trying to get that 6 wins, get to 6 wins. If they get this, I think Sam Pittman's fine if he wants to be. They lose, It's not going to be good, folks. Not going to be good. 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC. Number 10, Alabama heads to Memorial Stadium in Norman, Oklahoma. Alabama favored by 14, point total 47.5. I asked Hans the Gray what the crowd will be like. I imagine a little bit on edge, but again, Sooner fans are loyal. They will be there for the last game in the Palace of the 2024 season. Alabama, again, we've seen them at times. Again, though, you say they played South Carolina close. They lost to Vanderbilt, but those aren't bad teams this year. I mean, South Carolina's going to probably win at least 8-9 games. So, again, Alabama's probably worst two Power 4 teams they have played are coming up, Oklahoma and Auburn. We'll see how they handle it on the road. I think this game could be a little bit closer than people think. Again, me and Cole Thompson went and previewed this game. It'll be up here soon. And then 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN, Texas A&M at Auburn. Current line, A&M favored by 2.5, point total 47.5. That concerns me, that line, if I'm an A&M fan. Can't be looking ahead, A&M. You can't be looking ahead. Hugh Freeze is looking for that signature win this year. I think DJ Durkin's one of the more underrated coordinators in the league. He's put the blueprint out on how to stop Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt. I know that was in a loss. They only gave up 17 points and lost 17-7. This game worries me. It worries me. Because Auburn fans are going to show up. They know they need a big win. If they could get to 5 wins and then head into Iron Bowl with a chance, they'll take that. Better be careful here. I'll give you my prediction on Thursday. And then finally, 7:45 p.m. Eastern on the SEC Network. Vanderbilt at LSU. LSU wearing those gold unis. We don't know what the tops or pants are going to look like or even the cleats. But LSU is favored by 7.5 right now. Point total 54.5. Who knows, man? Vanderbilt coming off a bye week. Last time Vanderbilt came off a bye week, they had a great game plan. They beat Alabama. This is on the road at night at Tiger Stadium. It's not going to be your traditional night game. But does LSU cover this? Does LSU even win straight up? I mentioned Greg McElroy's leaning Vandy. I kind of do too right now. I don't know how I'll feel on Thursday when we get to this show, though, guys. But this is the total toss-up kind of to me of the week, in my opinion. Vanderbilt, LSU. That's the toss-up to me. But I will give you my prediction come Thursday on that one, folks. But, guys, I appreciate you joining us tonight. We will be back on Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time Zone. Dave Talks Ball, guys. We covered a lot. We reacted to all the Week 12 action across the board. We talked the road to Atlanta. Seems pretty 2 + 2 equals 4. Bama wins out there in. And if it goes chalk this week, it's going to be the winner of Texas for Texas A&M. If Texas A&M were to drop it, remember that line at Auburn this week, it's only 2.5. They were to drop it, then beat Texas, it'd be Bama versus Georgia. Again, if Texas wins out, they're in. Bama wins out, they're in. It's pretty easy right now. Playoff contenders, ceilings and floors. Interesting rankings there. I encourage you to go back and watch that. And we talked some SEC basketball. Bama dropped one to Purdue. I thought Texas A&M was the big winner over Ohio State. Ole Miss got an under-the-radar win against Colorado State. Then we previewed this week. Big matchups, Bama, Illinois, and Birmingham. I'll be there Wednesday night. Syracuse, Texas, Virginia, Tennessee this week. We got some good matchups. But, guys, I appreciate you joining us, guys. Don't forget, this episode brought to you by our buddies over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com. Use code SECU at sign up to get $50 instantly. Get $50 off instantly when you play your first $5 or more lineup, guys. But I appreciate you joining us tonight. Again, I'm your host, Dave Shoemate, joining you here from Dave Talks Ball every Monday and Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Before we get out of here, guys, go to the YouTube channel, go like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Go follow us on all social media platforms at SEC Unfiltered. Go follow me at Mach 10 Sports. But for myself, y'all have a phenomenal rest of the week. Can't wait to see you on Thursday.